Hey guys, good afternoon. This is Aubin again with Inside Real Estate. We're excited to talk to you guys today about dashCMA. And we've got actually the founder and creator of dashCMA on the line with us, ready to talk. Her name is Karen Abram. And so I'm actually going to turn the time over to her for now. And if you guys have any questions, I'm monitoring the chat. And if you have any, Karen, if you're okay with it, if they unmute themselves as well, either way, we can kind of go through and address some of your questions about dashCMA.
Absolutely. Let's keep
Cool.
it fun.
Thanks, Karen. Over to you.
Yeah, let's keep it fun and interactive. If there's things that come up, feel free to jump in. So I'm going to go through dashCMA. It should take me about 15 to 20 minutes to go through all features as well as a published report in its entirety. And then I will give you a sneak peek of what's coming soon with Core Present in the next few weeks here. So this is the first page you see when starting a dashCMA report. The first step is to list the address of the property that you're looking to price, whether it is for a seller trying to find out top dollar value or for a buyer who's looking to write a competitive offer and looking to better understand that top dollar value. I'm going to use an address that I know will allow me to showcase multiple features of the tool that I'm familiar with, but I'm happy to run examples for you on yours after. From there, you click next. Now, very important step here. You're going to want to confirm or change that subject property information. We get this information from public tax records. Public tax records are not always accurate or not always available. So you're going to want to do a quick check and confirm the property type, the bed count, and the living area size and year built of that property that we're pricing. If that's correct, click Find Comparables. Now, at this point, in the Find Comparables tab here, you have two options. If you click on Manual, you can simply put MLS ID by MLS ID here, and they'll be populated here. You will have to toggle back and forth with your MLS. But if you're more comfortable doing that, you have this option. If you do not wish to do that, I don't blame you. I would use the auto option. The auto option is going to take the information that we know about the subject property and make recommendations for comparable criteria. In other words, since we know you're pricing a single family home, we'll suggest you look for comparables that are also single family. You're pricing a 3-bed home, we'll suggest you view comparables that are also 3-bed. We'll suggest plus or minus 20% square footage. These are buttons. As you click them, that field will expand and you can drag and drop these circles to adjust that criteria. So if you would like to look at maybe 3 to 4 bedrooms, you can slide that for 3 to 4 or back for 3. Recency, we suggest you search within 0 to 6 months. However, you can search up to 24 months. And then location, we get you started with a 1-mile radius. You can shrink that radius or expand it as you need to, or custom draw it if you're trying to avoid certain streets. So let me give you a quick overview of what you're looking at on the map here. You'll notice there are icons that are solid green, solid yellow, and solid red. Those are the properties that are either active, pending, or sold that match that criteria. You'll also notice there's a ton of gray icons, and they have different bordering outlines. This one right here, for example, is very close to my subject property, and I click on it. I can see that it is a closed property that's 4-bed, 1 bed too large to be a comparable, and it's 39% larger outside of my square footage range. So the gray icons indicate properties that just missed the mark for being a comparable, but they're brought to your attention in case you want to override the algorithm. So maybe I don't care that this is larger or 4-bed. It's so close to my subject, I want to include it. Click Add to Comps. This way you're able to bring that one property in without adjusting your criteria. I don't want every 4-bed, I want just this 4-bed. I don't want to have to go to the MLS to pull that in either. You can, however, also enter MLS IDs right from here if there are some you would like to pull in. Now from here, I'm going to click Build CMA, and my active, pending, sold matches are going to come over with me. Now I glossed over it, but I should have pointed out that all of those matches come directly from your MLS. So we pull that, it should be a mirror match. some questions that come up when doing your search are, it's not finding certain comparables. Now, I would check to make sure that the criteria for dashCMA is aligning to the criteria you're using in your MLS, because it should be a mirror-to-mirror match. And the only reason it wouldn't be is because that criteria is slightly off. So on this dashCMA main page here, I'm going to give a quick tour around. The header highlights the property we're pricing, the date the report is valid for, what a comparable market analysis is, how many are used in the analysis, and at a minimum, what does it mean to be a comparable property? That way, we're not just relying on saying they're similar. We're giving it a concrete definition. Scrolling down, this I would explain as pretty much the heart and soul of dashCMA. It's this idea that the ability that you get to create your own big picture, your own narrative, your own story of helping your client see multiple perspectives in one clear view. Now, we're going to get you started with some defaults. I'll start from here. So from this point, you're able to see those active properties that match the criteria that are both active, closed, and pending based on their solid icons. The gray icons indicate the properties that have just missed the mark. That way you can see that there is a closed property over here. You can click on it. You can see why it is not being included. It is within that square footage range. However, it's a 4-bed and we're only looking at 3-bed. So if you would like to override the algorithm, you can click add to comparables, in which case we won't add in every 4-bed, but we'll add in that property so that you're able to see the full view of what's being included and what is not. Before I skip to build CMA, because I'm not sure where we cut off here, were there any other questions here? All right, then I'm going to click on build CMA. Now at this point, we're going to bring over those 34 sold, 10 pending, and 7 active into our dashCMA report. I'm going to give you a quick orientation of what you're seeing here, starting with the header. The header highlights who are you pricing this for, when the report is valid, what does it mean to be a comparable market analysis, and what does it mean to be a comparable, so that it is very objective and we're not just saying similar property. Moving down to the create your own big picture pricing. This is that heart and soul of dashCMA, as I like to call it. It does give you the opportunity to really help the report feel personal and feel tailor-made for your audience. So we get you started with a few pieces of information by default. The actives and closed that will show by default are the most recent and nearest. And the information below are some of the average trends as well as public estimates. However, you can pick what you would like to show here. You can curate this to the story that you are looking to tell to your client by choosing from perspectives in these 5 buttons here. So I'm going to start with reviewing results. When you click into review results, you first see a map on the right-hand side here, which shows you where all of your comparables are. You can either click on these one by one and search that way, or you can click from here. I'll go back to this property on Haskell here, and then you'll see where that property is in relation to your subject. You'll be able to browse through the photos, make it larger if you'd like, see what makes this property a comparable, see what features it has, the listing info, and that description. Finally, you can add a note. So if you want to send a note to your client about this specific property, that there's actually 400 square feet that's unpermitted, that's not being accounted for in the listing, or make sure you check out the bathroom for this one. It is very similarly updated to yours, which is why I think it's a great comparable. Whatever the note is, you can add that in here. And most importantly, choose how you feel about it. So there are 51 total results that match the bed count, square footage, neighborhood, and so forth. However, after looking at these, you're going to decide that some of these are not up to par from an aesthetic or condition standpoint, and you're going to want to delete those. But you're also going to find a few that are perfect. that you're going to want to make sure stand out, that are prioritized. Maybe you're pricing a property that's on a cul-de-sac or backs up to a busy street. Maybe you're pricing a property that had an extensively updated kitchen versus one that needs some heavy remodeling. Whatever it is that makes this property stand out as that perfect fit, make sure it stands out in your report by featuring it. You can feature it by clicking this button here or the stars here. When you do feature it, this property on Haskell will now prominently display on the scale so that you can show the ones that you cherry picked. Trends. What's the highest, the average, the median, the lowest, the nearest, the most recent price points of closed, pending, active. As you make those selections, they start to populate here. So I'm starting to get a more rich, full story. Features. Now, if you remember when we did our criteria search, it was very narrow. We cast a pretty wide net, and we said, most importantly, to be a comparable, it needs to have this bed count, this square footage range, this neighborhood, and this recency for sold date. But there's going to be various features that differentiate properties from one another. Now, the reason we don't put that into the criteria is we are cautious to not create blind spots for you. In other words, if you're pricing an 1,800 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bath home, and you said you only wanted to look at 1,800 square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath homes, you would miss the home that's next door that's also 1,800 square feet, 3-bed, but it's 3-bath instead of 2. But you certainly want to know, how is that extra bathroom adding value or taking away value? So we give you those options here. So if your client says, and this is my personal favorite, I have an amazing view. How much more do I get for having a view versus the others in the area that don't? And now I find myself in a position of having to appraise a view. So this way, you can objectively answer that question. You can say, there are some comparables on the market right now, 8 that have a view. There are also 9 comparables on the market that don't have a view. I can do this for both active pending as well as closed. Okay. When you check these boxes, you can say, for those 3-bed, similarly sized homes within a 1-mile radius, the presence of a view in those homes is on average $825,000 versus those homes without a view are on average $718,000. You can always click on these to see the 8 that we're using in that analysis. Now, I will point out the information under features does come from the MLS. There is absolutely some degree of agent error in that we are relying on the data being accurate as inputted by agents. So if an agent's saying that the property has a view and it does not, it will still show as yes. So I do want to acknowledge that and be forthcoming with that. We also, I'm going to click show all features. These are all the features that we currently track. We narrow it down when you open it to only show the ones that can be compared. But if there are additional features that you would like added here, please send that our way so that we can get that added to the list. Estimates. We will automatically pull in Zillow and ePraisal.com. If you don't want to show it, uncheck it. This way, if you do want to show it and say, I understand Zillow says your home's worth $759. I looked at Zillow as well, but I also looked at 20 other perspectives. For me, Zillow is just a starting point. I wouldn't base my whole analysis around it. But maybe you want to look at, maybe they mentioned Realtor.com or Redfin, or they met with another agent, or my favorite, my Aunt Linda says that I would be a fool to sell for anything under $1 million. Add as many public estimates, or as I call also public opinions, that you would like to add, so that you can say, I know your Aunt Linda's opinion is very important to you, so I included it in our analysis. Under Outliers is our last piece here. This is my personal favorite. Outliers highlight the average price of properties that are either too large or too small to be considered comparables. So you're going to be too large or too small by two variables, either square footage or bed count. So if there are properties in the area with the same bed count, but they're not a comparable because they are larger in size, we'll note that here. And you can check those to see what on average those are going for. Notice if it's grayed out, that means we checked the MLS. There are no properties within a 1 mile radius with the same bed count that are 50 to 75% smaller. So there's nothing to check there. But there are 25 to 50% smaller. What about the client who says, I'm interested in purchasing this property as a 3-bed, 1,800 square foot home, and then converting the den to a 4th bedroom and flipping it as a 4-bed, 1,800 square foot home. How much more could I get if I did that? Well, there's no reason to guess because there are properties within the square footage range that have an extra bed count. When you click that, now we can answer both questions. I can see that there are properties that are 50 to 75% larger, going for about $1 million. That will help with my Aunt Linda conversation to help explain why that might be unrealistic. I can also see that for the same square footage, more beds is not adding more value. It's just creating smaller bedrooms. So you can also, just as a point out here, you can click on any of these. If I decide that I don't want to use this one, when I delete it, it is removed from the report, from all calculations, and it does stay here as grayed out so that you can add back if you would like. But notice this is now adjusted. You can view this in both price and price per square foot with a simple toggle. And I hope what's clear is that you can see where some of those outliers are and where you have the most dense pricing support for the property. Now, the next question from here is logically great. I see where I have the most consolidated support. Where should I narrow my price? And to help with that is the second part of a 2-part tool, which is our market assessment. But before I scroll down, I want to pause right here and see if there are any questions. Okay, I'm going to move along then. And feel free to jump out if I'm going too quickly, or if there's anything you'd like me to, any questions you'd like to answer. You'd like me to answer. So down to the market assessment, Gage is here. This is designed to give you information about the market for your subject property at a glance. This information is—
Hey, Karen.
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
So if you did use that 4-bedroom as a comparable to your 3-bedroom, do you know does it show on there what the adjustment value is?
If I did use if I use the 3-bed, it's gonna show that basically for those properties that are going for 4-bed with the same square footage, 746,000 is the average asking price for those right now. So we don't show necessarily the adjustments for those for individual features.
Okay.
And the reason for that too is it's going to be fluid. It's going to change as the market changes, for one. So rather than say you should always adjust 10,000 more, for example, for having an extra bathroom, what we're trying to show is what is the market currently willing to pay for those different features. So this was actually recently used against me when I sold my home in December. And despite doing this day in, day out, I was a very, very typical seller, and I said, we should be able to set a record. I had a price in my head that was probably unrealistic, but I knew the demand and I was trying to stick to that. And in particular, we had a pool and others in the area did not. And I remember the agent said, he pulled out a dashCMA report and said, you do have a great pool and backyard, However, right now, properties with pools are only averaging about 20,000 more than properties without pools. And seeing that helped kind of put that perspective of that feature is not commanding as much more now as maybe it did months ago or when it was in the summer months versus in December.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so under market assessment here, you're going to get an information at a glance to talk about the property. You can click on any of these boxes for a deeper insight. I'm going to click on a couple. Competition, for example, shows that there are 7 active in the area. When I click on that, I'm able to see, 1, where they are in relation to my subject property, but 2, their color will highlight to me how fresh or stale they are. Would I price differently if I was adding a property to the market in a very fresh market versus a stale market? I might, in which case that's a story I want to be able to clearly illustrate to my client, as they are the final decision maker on price. And I want them to understand why I'd be hesitant to maybe price too aggressively given the very fresh market here. You can click on any of these, you can click into more info and so forth. I'll show also on price per square foot. On price per square foot, we'll show all properties laid out by their square footage and price point. You can hover over any of these for information. You can click into any of these to see that property. Now, with all things considered about the market, I scroll back up here and I confidently enter my price as either a single price or a range. I'm going to enter in 849,000. This way, I can say to my client, or it'll show my price, my name, and my face, and I can explain to my client that I looked at over 50 different comparables within a 1 mile radius that are similar in size, bed count, and recency. And of those, these are the ones that I thought we should really pay a closer attention to, as they are either the most recent inventory or they're similar updates, sit on a cul-de-sac, whatever that narrative is. I also compared my price to various trends, not just
Karen?
the highest, average, and lowest, but
Hey, Karen,
the most recent. Yes,
where did you come up with the 849?
I can't come up with that from all the information I'm gleaning here. So that is not something that we are necessarily giving to you. We don't tell you the price. Rather, we give you all the information here and within the market assessment for you to confidently assess your own price and say, where do you feel comfortable with that top dollar value?
So you want me to think, huh?
Yes, I do. We're
Thanks.
basically giving you all the tools to empower you to tell that story, but we never see the property. And I'm a firm believer that you cannot price a property without actually seeing it yourself too. So instead, we give you perspectives from these 5 key buckets so that you can take all of that in and confidently set your price.
All right, thank you.
No problem. So at this point, you can say, again, I looked at the trends. I looked at features, knowing that you have a view and others in this area don't. I took that into consideration with my pricing. I took various estimates that buyers might look at into consideration, as well as your Aunt Linda's opinion, because I know that's very important to you. And I took into account various outliers, because you're right. The actives on the market right now are pushing the market up, but I want to be cautious that we don't price to compete with properties that are much too large for us to compete with. All things considered, I feel confident pricing your property, defending it at $849 and getting you that top dollar value. And I can show that I feel confident in both price and on a price per square footage negotiation and debate. Now, from here, I share it. But before I do, any questions on what we saw here? All right, then I'm going to jump into sharing it. So I say, who do I want to share this with? I'm going to share it with myself. I can save it from here. Maybe I'm not ready to share it. I just want to save it. That's fine. I can create a PDF. I can email that to myself, in which case I can send it with other materials. I can also send an interactive link. I'm going to show you both the interactive link and that PDF. When I click interactive link, I create a new link. You can send this to as many people as you like. So I can create a unique ID for each person here. Now, when they click on it, this is what they will see. So they're going to receive an email letting them know that you sent them a report for this address. They'll see your information tucked away to the side here. They'll see that header intact. They'll see this scale, how you set it up. They can click on these. For example, this home on monogram. They can click on the home on monogram. They can click through it and so forth. Now remember, I clicked on the home on monogram. That will be important in a minute. There will be a short quiz. So I can also click on the highest close comparable. I can also come over here and I can play around with estimates. I can say I'm interested in that ePraisal.com estimate and see what that looks like. There it is. I can come down here. I can say I'm interested in that pricing rate of change, in which case I can see the last 10, and I'm the client. I can see the last 10 sold comparable properties. I can hover over these. I can even click in to see that specific property.
That's cool.
Finally, I'm the client. I scroll down and I see my agent has attached a PDF copy of the report as well. I can click into this. Now, you are able to fully white label those PDF reports. With Core Present, you will also be able to fully white label the interactive links as well. In this PDF, you can show, you choose that color, you choose the logos. I chose a blush here. You have your cover page. Your first page goes through your subject property, what it is, what does it mean to be a comparable property. I'm going to scroll here. My scale will print in both price and price per square foot. And notice that blush color follows throughout so that it feels like a customized, personalized presentation and not just have the color restricted to the header and footer. I'm going to skip past my gauges here. We show every single property that you looked at, noting the ones that you featured. I'm going to keep scrolling because there's quite a few of them. Now, we show this list details for every property you looked at, but we don't show pictures for all of them. And our rationale behind that is we certainly want to, as an agent, showcase and show all of our work of every property that could be considered a comparable in terms of location, square footage, and size, and such forth. But we're not going to necessarily show a picture of the guest bathroom for every single one of these. We recognize that condition and aesthetic does come into play when coming up with a comparable. So only for those starred, those featured properties, we will show a property detail page, in which case we will showcase those photos, those comparable details, those features, and the listing info for each of those. That helps keep this report to a very manageable and digestible 17 pages. Whereas the reason some of the other reports are as long as they are is because they're showing this page for all 50 results. So now I have closed the report. And I'm going to log back into dashCMA. I just received a note on my KV Core as an agent that my client has, opened and closed that report and that they have interactions. And I apologize, I didn't open up KV Core to show you where that would come in. I'll show you through that if we have a moment. But basically when you click on that to show that there's interactions, it will take you here. Now we're going to see who was paying attention because I said there was a quiz. So remember when my client clicked on monogram, or when they clicked on that highest close comparable, or how about when they chose to see the appraisal estimate or that pricing rate of change? I wasn't next to them, but I'm able to see where they focused their attention. So now I'm going to reach out. I'm going to call my client and say, hey, I wanted to check in, see if you had a second to look at the report I sent you, if you had any questions. By the way, did that home on monogram catch your eye at all? I was really hoping it did. In which case, if they say, yeah, you know, it did. Great, we're on the same page. What questions do you have? So I'm able to see what they're paying attention to. I'm also able to see if they're only opening and closing the report, in which case they may not know they can click around. I'm going to call them. I'm going to let them know, hey, this is a huge decision for you. I want to make sure that you're getting everything you need. I packed in a ton of graphs and photos into that report I sent you. Feel free to click and explore around and let me know if you have any questions. So the last thing I want to point out before we move on to core present, if we have some time here, is rebuild. So you can notice here that I've built this report quite a few times. Now, the idea behind dashCMA is that you should never have to build the same report twice, okay? You should be able to rebuild, and we have full memory to pick up where you left off. So when you do hit rebuild, we save a record of that last report. We do not replace it. That way you can compare, what does this report look like 5 months ago, 1 month ago, 2 minutes ago? I'm going to choose, and I'm not sure what I'm about to look at, so I'm going to click rebuild from a report from 1 week ago. When you click that, it will remember your criteria. If you adjusted this, it will remember. If you manually added properties, it will remember. If you manually added them here as well, it will remember. All right, I click Build CMA. And now what the tool is doing is it's quickly checking, has anything changed? So when I click Rebuild, comes here, it's going to remember the scale however it is I had set up. And when I go into Review Results, notice now I see New next to some of these. It's not here because when I built this report a week ago, I already reviewed this property. But this property has been on the market for 5 days. It's highlighting to me that I haven't reviewed it. It's new since the last time I built the report. That way, you know where to focus your attention. There's no need to review this property again. You already decided, reviewed it the last time you built the report, and you decided to keep it in the report with a like. If you deleted a property, let's see if I deleted any. No. If you deleted a property, it would stay as gray. If you deleted a property when it was pending and a week later it's now closed, it will keep it in as gray, just moved it to, it will just move it to closed. That way you can show your client side by side, hey, here's what it looked like a week ago, here's what it looks like today. That is very valuable for that client who says, I want to wait a week to see if the market goes up, or I'm not ready to list until I can get at least $1 million. And then you can show them a month ago when we talked, I recommended the top dollar value was $850. And I looked at it again today, and based on the market and similar properties that just recently closed, I'm confident we can get it today, but we have to act now. And you can show them a side-by-side report. And that, in a nutshell, is dashCMA. And before we go switch modes for a teaser on present, any questions here? All right, then I'm going to switch modes. And are we ready to take a look at core present?
Yep.
Okay. Core present lives inside of KV Core. You can access it on your side panel. Let's clean up my Zoom windows. There we go. All right, so when you step into Core Present, you have some customization settings. You have a presentation library. I'll come back to these if we have time. And then you have options for getting started as well as those past presentations organized right here. In terms of getting started, you choose quickly, is your goal to win the listing for the seller, win the offer for the buyer, or maybe you don't have any address specific information, you're looking to just present info. If I click win the listing, this should look very familiar. This is that first step of dashCMA. Instead of orange, it's in blue. So I'm going to type in that address again. I'm going to confirm those details. This should now look very familiar. This is the second step of dashCMA. I click build CMA.
How did you get to Core Present?
You will get there within KV Core. It will be launching in a few weeks now, and you'll find it as a tab on your left-hand side.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. We are also integrating it within multiple sections of KV Core so that it will logically prompt you to generate a Core Present when applicable. So if someone looks at a specific listing or yes, or a property alert.
Oh,
Yeah. So this should be very familiar too. This is basically dashCMA. And what I like to say is this is where dashCMA ends and Core Present starts. You can simply save your CMA if that's what you wish, or you can jump into create a presentation. So when you create your presentation, now we're entering this presentation dashboard. So quick orientation here. I have a very large preview screen of what I'm building. I see my sections here. I can choose my cover option to show an image or no image. I will need to upload that. Considering I'm building this for something that's not on the market, there's really nowhere for us to pull that from. So if you have that photo, you would upload that here. You can preview in both web and PDF. I'm going to go back to web. I can drag and drop sections. Now notice our section names are, we don't call a section price per square foot, for example. We call it what's my home worth, market analysis, the marketing and buyer activity, why I am the right fit, and so forth. At the top here, your presentation settings. This is my personal favorite part of Core Present. I think that oftentimes as agents, and I've been an agent myself, I was so focused on creating materials that would differentiate me from other agents. But really, I wasn't differentiating my client from other clients. And if I can effectively show that I understand my client, this seller, better than any other agent, then I just differentiated myself. So that was our goal with Core Present, was to help you illustrate that you're the right fit because no one understands this situation, these nuances better than you. So when you click emphasis, what's the order of your conversation? What are you trying to communicate? Is it that you're the right fit? Now, when you click that, this is designed for the person who says, I'm shopping you. For this seller, you're trying to get across to them that you are the right agent to list with versus top dollar value. For this seller, this is the make me list seller. They said, yeah, sure, let's meet. Let's talk about pricing for the property. It's on my radar to list in the next year, but if I can get top dollar value today, sure, I would consider listing now. For this person, you don't want to start by necessarily talking about yourself. You want to lead in with talking about the, did not rearrange the way it should. I apologize. Oh, sorry, it did. It's going to start with that market analysis. It's going to then go into, let's talk about the market and the conditions that will favor you towards getting top dollar value. Let's go into my marketing and approach to get it done and my knowledge of the buyers in the area. And then it will end, I apologize because we're still working through this. It will end on why I am the right fit versus starting on why I am the right fit.
Cool.
Under theme, You have two options. I'm going to go on a slide here. You have traditional, modern, and luxury themes. So a theme is basically a wrapper and a template. The idea that your traditional client might have their 6-year-old sitting next to them, and you're trying to appeal to your client as much as their 6-year-old and keep everyone following and entertained through the presentation. Versus the modern client is going to be looking very much at that attention to detail, the clean lines and so forth, and you want to show that you understand what that aesthetic. Versus luxury, you're going to have more of the rich, you're going to see more rich photos, high res photos, more depth and definition in the pages, some more, I'm forgetting what it's like the texture of the slides. So you have different versions that you can pick from within here, but notice we've created a package of about 12 different slides that are not address dependent. For example, the home selling process. This slide will look different between the traditional, modern, and luxury, so that you're giving the same information, but you're giving it to them in a format to align with that audience to set you up to win without basically otherwise assuming a one size fits all. I'll click through here so you can see some of those slides. And then when you go to present and share, you can add a listing agreement link to that presentation. You can add a net sheet to that presentation. You can open it, email it, text it, download it. We've added it into your KV core so that all follow-up tasks are there once you've sent it out, so that if someone is not interacting within 3 days, we know to trigger you to let you know that you should follow up, because we know you're busy and might have forgotten that. Let's see. Let's talk about I can show you the library. And how are we doing on time?
We've got about 10 more minutes, Karen.
Okay. So the idea behind library is that you might want to access single slides, or that single slide, maybe you ended a presentation and you were talking about how you were going to need to do some staging, and you want to send a follow-up on a slide on staging specifically. You didn't have it in your presentation to begin with, or maybe you want to create a slide. So in that library, you can see all the slides that have been created. You can also choose from the different sections here to browse through them. As you browse through them, you can choose which layout of that information you want to show. And then you can simply open it, email it, text it, print it, or copy it off right from here. Maybe you want to create your own slide, your favorite contractors or your favorite restaurants in the area, or you want to talk about something specific about your team. Whatever that is, you can click add a slide. You can either upload that slide if you already have it created, in which case we will ask you to upload both that landscape and portrait version. If you only have one, that is fine. It will adjust for you, but it will obviously look better if you have it in both. Otherwise, if you need to create something from scratch, you can choose how many photos you have to upload, choose that template, upload those photos, give it a header and some text, give your slide a name, and assign it to a section so that you can easily find it when building out that report. On customization, we've tried to make this very easy to be a one and done. Notice when I went to my presentation, it was already set up to show that blush color. It already had logos in there. It knew my default settings. I was able to make adjustments to it, but it knew my defaults. This is where you set your default settings. The idea here is that it should be a one and done, a set it and forget it. You can do one set of settings for traditional, modern, and luxury, because we understand you might want different fonts tied to each of them, different logos. So if you click traditional, for example, you can choose which of these themes you want to be your main default. You can choose which color. Now notice you'll see a lock setting here. If the brokerage has said, I want everyone to use those blush and not change that, you can lock in which case you cannot change. No one can change that. Fonts, you can also leave it unlocked and let them change it. We'll show you the 3 that we think are preferred for this style of report for traditional. It's obviously a different 3 for modern and a different 3 for luxury. This way you can see what we would suggest, but of course you have access to pick any of the ones that you would like. I'll choose this one just because it will definitely stand out and it will adjust. I can show up to 3 different logos. That first one is locked here so that if, or you have the option to lock the first one. So if Crown said, I want to make sure that our brokerage logo is in that right position on every report it included, they can lock that, but they can allow their agents to add in a team logo, a individual, a logo or image for getting top 1% in the country or leading RE or whatever that is. You can add those in here. And then finally, do you want your information placed at the top or the bottom? I click save and continue. And then I say my default presentation currently has 4 sections and 18 slides. You can click into each of these. I can see all the slides that are available, Realtor versus iBuyer. Maybe I don't want this in every single presentation. I can say, let's toggle it off and let's not put it in my default. That's fine. And now it's done. I do want to make sure I'm leaving a little bit of time for questions, so I'll pause here before going more into our sneak peek of present. Any questions? Any thoughts?
Karen, it looks wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Well, we are going to be starting to reveal kind of sneak peeks a bit more in the next coming weeks, and our plan is to start rolling this out in April.
Cool. Well, if there's no more questions, thank you so much, Karen, for your time and showing us Dash and Core Present. Again, keep in mind, everybody, Core Present is not quite available. We're pegging, sometime in April for that for you guys, so stay tuned. But in the meantime, definitely get familiar with dashCMA. Again, the way to access it is through your KV core system on the left-hand side, dashCMA. Start jumping in there, messing around with it. It should keep your IDX feeds already there. We should have those up and ready to go. So you should start seeing that there as well. Mike's got a question. Will there be webinar tutorials available to refresh learning? Yeah, Mike, there actually is a dashCMA learning portal course. You can access it through KV Core. In your dashboard on the upper right-hand side, there is a way to get to all of your learning portal courses. And Erin says she's going to send out this recording as well, so you guys have that for future reference. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you so much, Karen, for taking the time. Everything looks amazing, and I'm sure everyone's excited to use it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.